Hi, I'm Kristen, fellow mom and your biggest cheerleader in all things motherhood and parenting. My husband and I co-founded Parker Baby Co. with one mission in mind, to nurture and grow strong families. And that mission continues right here on Rooted Conversations. So grab a cozy drink, take a deep breath, and remember, you're not alone in this journey. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Rooted Conversations. I am Kirsten Huebner, the co-owner of Parker Baby. And today I have a very special guest. I have Beth Carey. She is the mother of our COO at Parker Baby, Ryan Carey, and she is the grandmother to, they're almost like cousins to my children, Lucy, Carl, Rose, and Annie. So, they're kind of about the same ages as my kids. They've got their youngers two are a little bit younger than our four, but we've kind of done life with Ryan and Abby. And we've just done a lot of fun things with Ryan, her son. And we had a lot of amazing grandparents to choose from for this podcast about intentional grandparenting. And so Beth, but we've just heard so many great things about Beth from both Ryan and Abby. And I'm really excited to chat with you, Beth, and get to know you a little more. And so thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm honored.
Yeah. So you have how many children?
So we have 3 sons. So Ryan's our oldest in Colorado, and Tyler's out here in the Pacific Northwest with us and with his family. And then Max is in California. And they're all 3 are married. And Ryan has 4, as you mentioned. Tyler has 3, and Max has 2. So we have 9 grandchildren.
Oh, wow. And all under, so it's Lucy, your oldest?
Lucy's the oldest, almost 11. And then our youngest is a year old, a little over a year.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys have your hands full too.
It's fun. It's fun. All the different ages.
Oh my gosh, that is so fun. So you guys you're a military family, and you've kind of lived all over the place.
We have, yeah. Ryan and Tyler were both born in Germany. And then Max was born in Northern Virginia. Randy was at the Pentagon. And then we moved to Wheaton. And we were there for 25 years, and then we relocated out here about 4 years ago with Ty and Brittany. So it's been an adventure.
That's so special. Yeah, that's nice when you get to be by. I'm sure they appreciate you living out there. And I know that Ryan and Abby love coming and visiting. How was it when you came in, babysat while we were hiking the Grand Canyon a month ago, right?
Yeah. So that was quite an experience because I've never managed 4 children before, but as long as I had, Lucy to guide me, that helped. I think the moment the reality hit was when I realized my husband was in Thailand. Randy was in Thailand on a work trip. And then I realized that Ryan and Abby were in the base of the Grand Canyon, and Robin and Jim were with them, who are normally the support in Fort Collins.
Oh,
and it was kind of this moment of I'm all alone in this. So, but other people, texted and said they were available if needed. But it was delightful. You realize how tiring it is. And when you haven't done it in a while, just thinking of the food, all the things you young moms are doing just so naturally. When you haven't done it in a while, it's definitely a readjustment. And I slept pretty well.
Yeah. Well, I know Ryan and Abby had full faith in you when we were at the bottom, and they were just like, "Oh, she's got it. She can do it."
Yeah.
But I even now, I have one of my best friends. She has a baby, a 1 year. She just turned 1, but I'm exhausted. I'm not even that far out of it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think I could go back and do it all again.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how when you get out of it. But
and just the layer of them missing their mom and dad, that came in and out every once in a while, especially with the 2 younger ones. So
yeah, Yeah, I bet. Yeah, for sure. But we had a great time, so thank you for doing that. That was a adventure, that's for
Yes, a
sure.
big adventure. Yeah.
I got to mark that off the bucket list. So, remind me your husband's name again.
Randy.
Randy. Okay, thank you. Um, so today's podcast is about intentional grandparenting. What does intentional grandparenting mean to you?
So when we became grandparents, Ryan and Abby were in Colorado Springs. Ryan's still in the Army. So, yeah, Ryan was deployed. And so we tried to support Abby as much as we could. I was still teaching. And so we started just, I think, exploring what does it mean, to grandparent. You have your base knowledge of your experience, but we knew we really wanted to be involved in supporting them. And I think what came out, and as we've added in each family, is just that partnership with the parents. And I think it's also making yourself available, and just living from a mindset of they have their nuclear family now, and your role is different, but you're still part of that. And there's research that's shown that the second most influential people in a child's life next to their parents are their grandparents. And so I feel like, our generation has really maybe struggled with that a little bit. What does that look like? And I think with your generation having access to so much information about parenting, and views on parenting have changed. I think the partnership is what has really come to help me. And then the intentional part comes out of that because, it's not our generation. We kind of learned, people had the attitude, you spoil your grandchildren. And it's figuring out how you bring fun things in, but you're partnering with their parents on the things that are important to them.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that because, the media portrays in laws, especially I feel like the husband's in laws. And as women, there's this stigma around husbands, moms. And because it is different, I think moms need their moms, right? Like, and it's just always different with the husband's mom. And I feel like you've done such a good job of bridging that gap with Abby. And you're just so good at being there for them and supporting them as parents. And I don't know, I think you've done that so beautifully. And I know that it's just, it's not an easy relationship. And I think people struggle with it. I think there's a lot of hurt in a lot of families.
Yes. And I think one of the things I've learned, and yes, I am so thankful for each of my daughter-in-laws. And when my sons were getting married, I told each of them, love them well and don't ever let me get in the way of your relationship. And I mean, there have been times where they've had to say something, or we've had some fun conversations, about expectations or unspoken expectations. But yeah, I think in this stage of life, being the mother-in-law is the mother of the son, the husband, is a really hard place. Yet my daughter-in-laws have been so gracious, and I am so thankful for that. Because I've made some mistakes, and I mean, we're getting ready to go to Disneyland this week with our whole family,
Oh
and
yeah,
even in
I love that.
the planning of that, it's just been fun to see everyone's excitement in being part of the planning. And that's a really cool thing because I don't have to be in charge of that, and I think sometimes, the mother-in-law or the mother feels like they have to run the show. And I'm just so thankful for these, families that are just so willing to, take a lead. And And I think that's one thing I've learned is that, hold your expectations and traditions lightly or with flexibility, because you do want them to create their family and their nucleus family. And so with that, you've kind of maybe got let go of some of yours. But I haven't had to let go of much because they've just been so supportive. So
That's great. That's great advice. I think as moms, we work so hard for so long to build these magical moments and these traditions, and then like to watch them have to, to do their own thing, like you want to continue that and you kind of have to give that up. I'm sure that's,
yes, you as moms, you're working so hard. And I think that time with the Colorado Careys really helped me to be reminded of that.
mm,
Just all that's going through mom's head all day, all
yeah.
day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When you were babysitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really great advice about respecting the traditions that moms are trying to establish. That's really important.
And the other factor too is the other side of the family, just accepting that as part of the partnership too. And I have come to be so grateful for the other grandparents supporting our three sons and wives and families. So that's always another layer
Yeah.
that it can be beautiful or can cause friction. So
What was your experience like with intentional grandparents? Did you have a lot of support when you were raising the boys with like your parents or Randy's parents?
um, yes, I mean they were both sets of grandparents were we worked hard to to allow our sons to get to know them, because Randy's parents lived on the West Coast, mine lived on the East Coast, and initially we were in Germany. So we would come back, and a trip would entail our vacation time would be visiting each set of grandparents.
Oh, wow.
So, yes. And, a lot of things I learned from my mom, like a love of books and how important those are for children. My dad was a storyteller. Um, Randy's parents, Jim and Mary, just would always provide, they'd always have places like go feed the ducks and things like that that the kids love to do.
Mhm.
Um, but maybe just, I think the idea of being intentional grandparents has come out even more over the years. But yeah, there were some fun traditions, when we would get together, but not very often, would we, we had maybe one or two times where they stayed with the kids so we could do something. I think, and that was partially the distance, and they
Yeah.
didn't have that day-to-day connection time. So, yeah.
Did you have stand or like other relationships in your life that, especially with Randy being in the military, that gave you some support as a mom?
Yeah, I mean, like when I first became a mom, we had like mom coffee groups, and we were in Germany, so we just gather in someone's quarters and um, you know, sit around, talk, and the babies would play. And then that became a play group. So in the military, it was our military family. We're all kind of in the same boat. So we would, support each other that way. And then I had friends in each place we lived, and we would share caring for kids or making meals together or whatever. So yeah, you just had to be more intentional in finding it, I think,
Yeah.
as you moved around.
Yeah. Do you think because your parents lived further away that kind of made you want to be more involved or make more, I guess now it's easier to travel, but
Hmm.
go see grandkids and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, travel is our lifestyle, since we had children. Yeah, as we became grandparents, I started looking for resources, just that might be an encouragement, and didn't find a lot. And then a friend and I were laughing one day, talking about maybe writing a book. Her grandkids were all near, mine were all far. And so as I started writing a book proposal and doing some research, I found an organization called Legacy Coalition. And they are basically kind of launched my understanding of intentional grandparenting. So they have something called Grand Monday Nights. That's every Monday night. And then they have a summit, an annual summit. And so we started gathering, once we got out here, we started gathering grandparents together. And it's just interesting, all the different, of course, backgrounds people are coming from, but also it's so interesting to hear people's stories. And, not everyone has daughter-in-laws who invite them in, or sons who support that, or access to their grandchildren. And so I think that really helped formulate for us just the privilege we have, just being more intentional. And so in the military, it was our friends, our peers. And through the years, it's just been friends, as they've become grandparents, just kind of walking alongside each other.
That's awesome. Randy, as a grandpa, what's his way of being an intentional grandpa?
Yeah. So Randy chose to be called Kraken. Before Kraken was, out here, Kraken is a sports team, but before that, he chose that. And I was just talking about how I have to bring the balloons and the things to create the party, and he is the party. So, I don't know if you've seen any of those videos on Instagram where the grandmother is so excited, she gets out of the car and the kids run right past her to the grandfather. That's my life. Mm-hmm. There's just something about him that they love. And he's intentional too. We're going to do it together. I said he should have been up here too, but, so it's fun to do it with him because he does engage, as much as I do, or as we want to. So,
yeah, that's great. You guys make a great team. Yeah.
Well, that's what makes it even more fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was missing him when I was managing the 4 children and he wasn't there. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. What advice would you give to other grandparents?
I think the one thing is remembering that, it is a partnership. And I mentioned about how, you have a role of influencing, and it's a great opportunity to share your faith. Mm-hmm. Always making sure that the parents are on the same page with that too, mm-hmm. is really important. And we're very fortunate in that respect. I think one thing is, just taking those steps to get to know your grandchildren and who they are and what they like and those kinds of things really builds that relationship. And, they say that your area of your level of influence, I guess, goes up to about age 12. And then, so many other people become so important to your grandchildren. So you have this window of, when they're old enough to start sharing those things to when, they're kind of looking to other people too. Yes. And then, being flexible with traditions, I mentioned, I think that staying connected to other grandparents, books. My mom sent books to her grandchildren and her great grandchildren. And I've done that too. And having been a teacher, I just know that's such a great way to connect with kids. I do recommend reading things before you send them because there are a lot of hidden messages in children's literature these days, which is kind of hard. And then with like the old ones, like Lucy and some of our older grandchildren, reading what they're reading and then being able to talk about is a great connecting point for grandparents. Another thing someone very wise suggested to me when kids started visiting our home with grandchildren was make your home a place where they know you're going to have everything they need. And I mean, you can't have everything. Sometimes I overdo that. But, in fact, I've loved some of the Parker Baby products because I have the felt carry all, filled with diapers and wipes downstairs. And I have the kid size towels. And I just got the willow tote,
Oh
and
yeah.
I fill that with all kinds of things. And I just used it at a potluck with two of the kids from here.
Oh,
They just got to pull, yeah, I had crayons and those things.
yeah.
So, just, but having your home, whether it's the Graco beds, portable beds, or the sound machines, or the monitors, just things like that. We have kid-size fold-up chairs and um, um, sleeping bags, and just things that create a space that make them really want to come and being comfortable in your home, in your space. And then I think it's really important to make birthdays special. Whether it's sending a card filled with confetti. And my mom started the tradition of $1 for every year. So We've carried that on. One thing that I would like to do better is just being able to stay connected, either by phone calls or FaceTime. But when you've got to schedule it with the parents because you're
Mhm.
using their phones. Ryan and Abby did get a landline, and that's been kind of
Yeah,
fun,
the
just
tin
to
can.
call.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to call and be able to talk to them. And then one of the other things I've learned over the years is about our visits to the ones who don't live locally. Coordinating those with the parents. As they get into school, you have to realize, I've come to realize that when we step into their home during the school year, we're disruptive, and whatever that looks like. So we found that, like, before school starts, going and doing some back to school shopping with them, any end of school activities. And then the first few days they're out of school are kind of fun times to be there, and keeping our visits shorter than, sometimes we used to go for a whole week. And now we've realized, long weekends, probably good for everyone. And especially for them, then they, keep them out of their routines too long. And well, I guess this will be a little bit later with suggestions for moms. But yeah, I think those are just, and getting even schedules, school schedules, sports schedules, so you can kind of plan, with your own schedule when you can be there and cheer them on, or just know
Yeah.
when they're going to have time off from school too.
Yeah. Yeah, those are all such great, I mean, just fantastic things for grandparents, first time grandparents. It's so great. Going back to like what you're saying about having your house full of things for, so they don't need anything. They don't need to, because as moms, you have to bring so much to come to places, and that can be a deterrent to going and spending, especially if to spend any amount of time anywhere. You have to bring so much stuff. So if you want your grandchildren to stay at your house for any significant amount of time, you're going to need a lot of stuff there. And if you don't have your stuff there, then your children are going to feel like you don't want them there, you know. And my mom get all that stuff at garage sales. I mean, you can get
Mm-hmm.
all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff at garage sales or Facebook Marketplace. Even my grandma, when we would go visit her when I was growing up, I mean, her bath toys were like butter containers,
Yeah. Yeah.
the lids and like holes in the bottom, like
Yeah.
she made them. Because we were growing up, we would have like the TV with the VCR in the
Mm-hmm.
van because we would have to travel like 9 hours to see her. Every time we went, she would have made, how when back then you had to like record on the TV to like put on the VHS. She made us one every time we went for us to watch on the way back, like her own
Oh.
snippets of shows or something, like Bambi or like, I don't know. So those are just little things that like don't really cost money or like, but just made us feel like she wanted us there or like was thinking about us and preparing for us to be there and to stay there for a long time.
Well, I think it says to the grandchildren, you're important enough to me that I want to make sure, yeah, there are things here that you can enjoy. And I have a big library of books. And I'm also learning about games, finding a new game to share with them. majority are getting to the age where they really love to play a game.
Yeah.
So, and then you're at eye level with them and making that contact. And of course, all the hugs and cozy moments of cuddling in a chair, reading books are always fun things to do too.
Yeah. Okay. What are some advice that you would give to new moms?
Yeah, I always hesitate.
Mhm. Don't hesitate. It's okay.
um, I know.
It's not
I
not
think
every advice is for everybody. It's just you can
right.
take or leave advice. It's not for everybody.
Yeah, and I think the thing I've learned too is that it's what I'm learning, and I'm still learning how to be in this role and do it well. One thing is, yeah, the expectations. I think it's really important for grandparents um, to ask parents, like I just always go to food and snacks and that kind of thing. Um, because you do. One of my friends said, all I can ever think of to do with my grandchildren is take them for ice cream. So you have to learn to be a little more creative. But I think it's just that knowing the parents' expectations and then knowing where they're flexible. So
Yeah.
maybe it's like Randy does get in trouble for taking kids to McDonald's, but living out here, there aren't many choices. We don't have Chick-fil-A and, some of those other
Yeah.
places. Um, but he understands the expectations and he doesn't do it every time he's with them. So, that's kind of the boundary there. But I think the other thing for moms and dads is getting the grandparents involved. And I think as you move into this role and then this stage of life, and some people are grandparents much younger, but I think, you can become invisible in a lot of ways. So I think it's just working in that partnership, going both ways of, you know, what can the grandparents do and to be helpful to partner with the parents. And sometimes it takes the initiative of the parents to encourage that because, if depending on where the grandparents coming from as far as experience. Um, and I think it's just, kind of like we're a team,
Hmm.
and just cultivating that mindset. And also with the other grandparents. I mean, with, Robin and Jim, and, they were in close proximity to the grandchildren we shared, the only ones we had for a little while.
Hmm.
And they got to be around them a lot. And I confessed to them that I was a little jealous. And then I realized I need to be grateful, grateful that all of our grandchildren have other grandparents who are speaking into their lives. And so, it's with a grateful heart that I share that.
What a privilege to like have two sets of just such loving grandparents that they're so jealous of each other with how much love they get to give. Because that's our experience too. Like my parents and Sam's parents, like they're jealous of each other of how much love that they can, like, I don't know, time they can spend. Like what a privilege. And yeah, not everybody.
And each of our families have grandparents on the other side who do love them, a lot. So the
Mhm.
kids are well loved, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
such a blessing.
And, I think one of the other things is with the expectations. Yeah, I mentioned like sharing calendars and school schedules and things like that. And just remembering that, grandparents, they do want to have a role, and that role is not always, especially if you're far away, it's not always obvious. But I think the more grandparents get invited into it and the expectations are set, then it just becomes a little more natural, maybe, or fluid, more
Hmm.
fluid.
Hmm.
Um, and then, the other thing is hopefully grandparents, are praying for their grandchildren. And it's just maybe inviting other people too, and other people that maybe don't have their own grandchildren. I know out here we have several people in our lives, and they they love children, but they don't have their own grandchildren. So it's sometimes looking around and seeing who else might be able to be included in that role of speaking into your family's life. So, and especially if you don't have the support, on both sides or any support. I mean, there are a lot of people who just grandparents are doing other things. So,
yeah, we're huge believers in multi-generational influence and families. I think it's something that we're missing, and our world is just kids that have conversations with different generations and know know well people in different generations. And
mm-hmm.
I think in the church, that's where kids kind of did that, or in neighborhoods. And I feel like that's not a huge thing anymore. And so I love that. I think that's so important. So
yeah, we can all learn from each other. So, I mean, I'm
that's
learning things from my grandchildren all the time because they're all into different things and they're learning different things, and so it's fun.
yeah, that is. Well, do you have any last things? Anything else you want to share? Did I forget anything? Or
I don't think so. Yeah, thank you for
yeah,
just giving me the opportunity even to reflect on what is important.
yeah,
It was a good reminder to do this right before our trip because,
you're gonna have
yeah,
so much fun. Have you
we
been
are.
walking? It's just a lot of walking.
I haven't done what I thought I would have done by now. Yeah, and I think they're all concerned about me, but we'll be fine.
You do not need to be concerned, but it is. It's just what parks are you doing?
We're doing Disneyland in California on,
Oh, okay.
yeah, one day, and then California Adventure, and then Disneyland. So three
Well, you're gonna
days.
have so much fun.
Yeah. Well, the grandkids are just so excited. That's just
Oh,
so much fun to see the joy there.
I I miss it. Yeah, because there's a certain age frame that's it's extra special, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're there with a lot of them. One other thing I thought of is Randy and I have talked a lot about, when we're not here anymore with them, what would we like to see? And I think that's what spurred on some of these trips and gatherings with our family, is because they're in 3 different states. So just the importance of building that community of family that, they're each living their lives in different places with community there, but for the grandchildren, the cousins, to really know each other. And even, down to our youngest one, Rayla, who's here, she sees pictures and she starts naming, well, she's the second to the youngest, but she starts naming the different cousins, at 2. And so just building those relationships, because, they'll be there for each other in the future,
Yeah,
no
I've
matter
heard about
where they are.
pickleball games at your house
Yeah.
between the your kids and the wives.
Yeah.
Heard
Yeah.
about some pretty great pickleball games. I know that you've just cultivated a really amazing family unit.
Well, they've allowed us to. So it's been fun.
Well, you raised good boys, good men that married great women.
That they did. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm sure that was a lot of prayer, and that had a big part of it too. So
Yeah. And, to tag on what I said about asking other people to pray for your children, that was something we had different couples that were committed from their birth on to pray for them. And then, of course, there were times in the church where they were assigned to different people. But I think other people walking along with you, um, and your kids hearing from them is really important. And I mean, that's
yeah,
the extended family that you used to get when you all lived in the same area, hopefully. And, now with people dispersed in different locations, you have to be a little more intentional with that. But yeah, I
yeah.
mean, just if you don't live close to grandparents, I know there are people just waiting to be asked.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good. I know my best friend that I mentioned before, she hasn't lived by grandparents, like her parents or husband's parents ever, and they've found people in the church that will be step-in grandparents everywhere we've lived. They've been able to find step-in grandparents that will like through the church that will watch their kids whenever, like
Yeah.
pray for their kids, like do whatever. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah. I think people just, yeah, in that stage of life are just waiting to be asked,
Mm.
and so, yeah. And in the church, it's a great opportunity because so many times they're just sitting there feeling invisible. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really
That's
cool.
probably good advice for younger moms and dads.
Yeah. Yeah, if they're feeling alone. Well, thank you so much for being here and thank you for chatting. This was really, really nice.
Well, it's
So,
nice to see you again.
yeah, you too. Next episode is in May, and this, I just saw this. We're sharing parenting horror stories that listeners can submit on Instagram. So you can follow us on Parker Baby Instagram and submit your horror story, and we'll be talking about them next time. So that'll be
That'll be a
funny.
fun one to watch.
I think my sister-in-law Jess will be joining me for that one, so that'll be a good time. Brian's joining me for the one after that for camping with kids.
Oh, that's a great one for summertime.
Yeah, and Father's Day, around Father's Day. So that'll be
Yeah. Yeah.
fun.
He has great stories from growing up on that topic. So,
Yes. Well,
yeah.
thank you so much. I'm sure we'll
Yeah.
see you again in the future.
Yeah. Blessings to your family.
You too. Bye, Beth.
Bye bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Rooted Conversations. I hope this episode reminded you that you're growing. You're growing a strong family and you're growing as a parent. One moment, one choice, and one hug at a time. I'll see you next time.